Does it feel like you get going and then something happens? You stall out, you kind of get behind a little bit, then you start going again, and guess what? You're almost there, and something always seems to stop you from getting where you're going. In this episode, we're going to talk about why finding your rhythm is probably one of the most important things you can do to get going where you want to go. Stick with us. Hey everyone, John here. 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 Welcome to the Leaders Leading Leaders podcast. Hey everyone, John here. Welcome to the Leaders Leading Leaders podcast. I'm excited for this one today for many reasons. Finding the rhythm in life has probably been one of the hardest things for me to do. And so I go elsewhere to find it. When I was growing up, I played in the band. I was a percussionist, and I found the rhythm. I was part of marching and part of the symphony band. Never really pursued anything, but I loved playing percussion instruments. Why? Because there was always a beat. I didn't have to worry about playing a note. I didn't have to worry about being in tune. I just had to make sure that I was on beat when I needed to be on beat, and the rest would figure out itself. And then trace probably forward 20 years, and I ran a marathon. I was training for a marathon, and I realized how important finding your rhythm is when it comes to training for a race like that. So we're going to talk about a couple things that I learned along the way, both playing a percussion instrument and training for a marathon, and how I've applied it to my life and I found success. So let's dig into the content. And before we get in there, I want to welcome all of you new listeners and thank all of our existing listeners. I really appreciate you all taking the time to invest in yourself. Kudos to you, and welcome to the Go Be Great community. Our mantra here is just do it messy. Go before you're ready, and then don't miss 2 days in a row. And finding your rhythm is an important part of not missing 2 days in a row. And we're going to talk about why. So let's talk just quickly about getting started. And I always say go before you're ready, but John, what does that look like? For me, it looked like starting small, just dipping your toe into the water. So for example, when I played percussion, I didn't start out on the quints, the 5 drums in marching season. I started out on the snare. Whenever I was training for a marathon, I didn't start with the marathon. I started with a couch to 5K. That actually got me into running. I hated to run. I ran track in high school, but I ran the hurdles and the 800 meter. And for those of you out there, that's like 2 laps around the track. That's about as far as I was going to go. 26 miles was not even anywhere in my future at that time. But I started small. I got into running, wanted to get fit. I had some health concerns. It was a great way for me to lose weight. And also, I learned in my run, and this is one point I'm going to talk about, that was my time to focus on myself. Many of you know that I spec out as an introvert. So running was a perfect opportunity for me to just put some earbuds in, listen to some self-development, listen to some music, whatever you wanted to listen to. And it was you against the road, step after step after step. Just in life, as we're going through life, in some days, you might not want to get out of bed. Some days, it's hard to put those clothes on and get to work. Some days, maybe just lifting your head off that pillow is a struggle. So I'm here to tell you, if you find your rhythm, it is going to help you achieve all of those goals, figure out where you need to be. Where's your sweet spot? That's one thing that I learned when I was starting to train. I didn't know where I fit in. I would go on these group runs and there was pacers. So you'd have 6-minute pacers and all the way out, to 10, 12, 15 minutes. And I didn't know where I quite fit in. I had ran before, I'd ran a 5K, I'd ran several half marathons. So I understood kind of where I needed to be in order to hit the mark. And that's where I started. I said, okay, John, we're going to do this thing under 4 hours. So what do you need to do to accomplish a marathon under 4 hours? Where's your time? And I worked from there. So just like in life, sometimes we got to see the end goal. We got to figure out where we want to be and then work backwards. And that's how I was able to find my rhythm, because I got to a point where I probably bit off more than I could chew. And I, stuck with trying to stick with the 7.5, 7 milers. That wasn't going to work. I really needed to be kind of in that 8-minute mark per mile. And that's where I found my sweet spot. And I would fluctuate about 15 seconds or so, depending on where I was training, hills, flat, who I was training with, who I was running with. But that's just in life, right? Our environment is the number one predictor for change. Who we surround ourselves with, what is around us in our 6-foot radius, the energy that we receive and the energy that we give are important indicators for change. So for me, finding my sweet spot, pacing, was critical for me to go injury-free, because this was a marathon. I mean, pardon the pun, it's not a sprint, it was a marathon. And I needed to be able to last the training season, which was 16 weeks. And thank goodness I had a great support team here. They were a running club here local to the area, and we would do group runs every Saturday. So it held myself accountable. And a lot of what we do in life, we don't hold ourselves accountable, or we don't find somebody to help us hold ourselves accountable. And so when that Saturday morning came, and runs were Saturday, 6:45 a.m. in the morning, rain, sleet, snow, whatever it was going to be. This race just happened to be in April, so it was the Oklahoma Memorial Marathon. And we would start in January training for this race. So here in Oklahoma, you just never know what you're going to get. Some days it could be icy, some days it could be 80 degrees, and you just had to prepare for everything. But that too is like life. Some days we wake up and the sun is shining. We had a great night's sleep. We woke up on the right side of the bed. Our coffee was fresh. I mean, whatever you do, everything was just in rhythm. Everything was ticking. How did that feel? It felt great. And then there were some runs that my ankles were killing me. Maybe I had a toe that was had a blister on it and it was hard to run, or my calves, whatever that may be. And those are the excuses I came up with. Oh, I don't really need to run today. My toe, I need to rest it. But I took some advice from a great mentor in the running club. He said, the shorter runs during the week, if you're injured, take off one of those. Don't take off your long runs on the weekend. He said those are the most important, 16 of them. And then the race. 16 runs. If you can dedicate yourself for 16 runs, he said, I promise you will finish. It may not be in the time that you want to finish, but you will finish the race, because it is such a grueling race. And I try to live my life by that. Those little things that I used to pay a lot of attention to, they don't matter as much anymore. But those big ticket items, those big experiences, those long races on the weekends, that's where I put my energy in. That's where I throw all my marbles in life. Because that is going to help you in the long run. Those are the mornings that I regretted. Some mornings as I was driving out to the race, and we would alternate race locations or run locations in the city, and I knew a couple that were uphill. And I'm talking straight uphill. Yes, there's hills in Oklahoma. I know some people are out there laughing. But the hills, and I didn't want to go. I had raced there before. I did not want to go back. And I almost turned around, but I kept on telling me, don't miss the long runs. Don't miss the long runs. And that was my motivator. So whatever your long run is in life, it may be finishing that certification. It may be getting back into school. It may be getting back into the workforce after you've been off for quite some time, or maybe taking care of a parent or taking care of kiddos, or maybe just taking some time off for mental health. Whatever that long run is, don't miss out on those long runs. That was one of the key things that helped me not only finish the race, but finish in an acceptable time. Hey everyone, John here. I wanted to jump on and quickly talk about my Kickstart the New Year Challenge. If you're feeling stuck, if you're feeling like you got a lot of irons in the fire and you're not really progressing, you're not getting anywhere, maybe you feel lost. I know I did. And over the past decade, I have been working on a coaching program to help myself, and now I want to give it to you. Head on over to thejohnespinosa.com, sign up. You're not going to want to miss it. You owe it to yourself to kickstart the new year. Get going now. Don't wait till January 1 when everybody else is going. Get ahead of the game. You owe it to yourself. Go be great. That I wanted to. And that race that year was one of the hottest on record for that time of year. And it was all about how I trained, my hydration, how I ate. I didn't miss those long runs. I took care of myself. That's one of the other things that when we talk about finding your rhythm, life is a marathon. There are going to be those short little races where you don't feel like racing. Maybe you're hurt. Maybe you're too tired. Maybe something happened that day in your personal life and you're just not there. But you show up anyways. And you run the race. And there may be some times where you got to take your foot off the pedal a little bit. Because again, if you don't get to the end, then a lot of times all of that work goes right out the window. Take care of yourself along the way. That was the other lesson that I learned, is to make sure that you were eating right. Make sure that you had good shoes, good socks. What does that look like in your life? Is it exercise? Is it forgiving yourself for a mistake that you made? It may even be moving past a tragedy in your life. Not forgetting, but moving on. Along the way, we have to take care of ourselves. We have to put that oxygen mask on ourselves, because if we're not healthy in the right mindset to help ourselves, we're no good to others. That pacing group, if I wasn't at my best, I was doing them a disservice because I was holding them back, because they were encouraging me. They were telling me, hey, John, you can do it. And a lot of times, that's what did the trick. That's what helped me through those long runs. So finding your pack, finding those that encourage you and you encourage them, matching energies is part of finding your rhythm. Getting in that stride. There is nothing better. There is such a thing called a runner's high, where you hit a certain moment in the run and it feels like you are gliding over the pavement or the dirt or whatever track you're on. And that's where I want you to get to, and that's why I wanted to talk about finding your rhythm. Get to that runner's high where you are gliding. It's effortless. You're not thinking about what mile you're on or how long you have to go. And then stay there. And remember that feeling. Write it down, because that's what I chased. When I first experienced that, I wanted to do it again. It was an addiction. I wanted to get out there, put my shoes on, lace them up, and find that place where I just felt like I was gliding. And I applied that to life, because those are far and few between. Sometimes we look at social media or we look at people and it's a highlight reel of what's really going on. That's their runner's high. But beneath the tip of that iceberg is the work, the grind, sometimes the failures, all of the things that are hidden under the water. So whatever that moment is for you, find your rhythm to get there. And it comes over time. It comes over sacrifice. It comes over dedication, consistency, commitment to yourself. Once you find that stride, stay there as long as you possibly can and get as much done as you possibly can. Help as many people as you possibly can, because there is no better feeling in the world. I hope that you found a couple things out of this lesson that you can apply to your life. I know running is still a big part of my life. I don't run as far anymore. Never say never. It's on my bucket list to do another marathon, but I just enjoy getting out, lacing up those shoes, putting my headphones on, being by myself, and pushing myself. Finding that runner's high, finding my rhythm, because the first mile and a half, I can tell how well the run is going to go. Maybe it's the first 3 hours of the morning. You know how well that day is going to go, but push past that. Because if you don't push past those moments, you will never get to the gliding moments in your life. So do me a favor, find your rhythm. I promise it's out there. Go do the things that you need to do in order to put in the work, find the commitment, the motivation, lace up those shoes, and get out on the pavement of life. Hope this helps somebody today. Go be great. I believe in you. We'll talk to everyone later. Bye-bye. If you like what you're hearing, do us a favor. Click on that subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up or leave a comment. That lets us know that what we are putting out benefits you. If you want additional information or resources or learn how to work with me, head on over to thejohnespinosa.com, because when we become better versions of ourselves, it helps us get others to where they're going. Go be great.